There we go. You're like frozen me first. Go ahead. You're good.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into your weekly rundown. Join in as always, my brother from another, my co-host, all the way from the 305, Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great, brother. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Life is good. Can't complain. Can't complain at all. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff going on since we had last spoken to y'all. And we want to start off with this NBA draft lottery because there's a lot to get into with this NBA draft lottery. A couple of people are looking to this like we're going to talk prospects. No, we're actually not going to talk prospects. What we are going to talk about is the uncertainty surrounded by the draft coming up because in the top four, you have three teams that are looking to win now, maybe, who could look to trade out. The Atlanta Hawks, who ended up winning it with the first overall pick. You have the Houston Rockets at 3, and then the San Antonio Spurs at 4. We know Trae Young, his name has been attached to potential trades. DeJounte Murray's name has been attached to potential trades. And we also know that Trae Young has come out and said that he wants to win. He wants to be in Atlanta, but he wants to win. So that first pick, even though this isn't the strongest draft compared to years past, especially last year, that first pick holds a lot of weight and it holds the keys to an uncertain future in Atlanta. Are we trying to win? Are we going to get rid of this pick? Or are we going to go full rebuild mode? Are we going to reset? Now, if they win, if they're going full on win, who is a player right now that would covet that first overall pick?
If I was the Hawks,
Who do you want to pair up with Murray and Trey?
that is a good question. I think obviously you still have Clint Capella over there, so you're
I
probably
heard he's
thinking I you're probably thinking you need a wing player. I would say so. If you can get someone maybe like Brandon Ingram, kind of a scorer, wing player like that, I think some people would talk about maybe him being on the move. Yeah, that's what I think. Off the top of my head, I think someone like Brandon Ingram would be like a perfect fit for them to kind of come over there, bring that wing score, real dynamic scorer, take some pressure off of Trey Young. And Murray is a scorer, but he is also like a point guard, so it takes some pressure off Trey Young doing all that, and you get a wing score, and then maybe Clint Capella on the back end if you keep him blocking shots and rebounding.
The other thing I'm wondering about too, like we talked about Atlanta, but having Houston and San Antonio in there for those 3 and 4 picks. Houston barely missed the play, and they're looking like they have a really good trajectory moving forward. And then Victor Wembanyama unanimously wins Rookie of the Year. He looks special. He looks like he's going to be something special. And if you're the San Antonio Spurs seeing the rookie year that he just had, you know that you got to put pieces around him. Now they do need a point guard, and there are point guards for them to draft. But if you can get an established guy in there, um, you can definitely look to speed up the process moving forward. And then we were just talking about the Atlanta Hawks. You can get the San Antonio Spurs have 2 lottery picks to play with. And to me, that fourth pick is the one most likely to get dealt between the two. If you're San Antonio, going back to Atlanta, would you rather bring DeJounte Murray back, who already knows the city and the system well, played under Pop, still has spoken a lot about his affinity and love for Pop and the Spurs? Or do you want to take a different approach and go after the other point guard and Trae Young, who, not gonna lie, would be a pretty nice piece next to Wembanyama in that pick and roll?
Right. I think you bring up a good point about bringing someone back in there. I think it depends on their timeline. I think maybe I guess both are kind of like win now moves, but obviously uh, I think Murray, for the reasons you just brought up, would help them maybe a little sooner because he knows the system, he knows Pop, he can come in and fit right in. And in that situation, maybe you can trade for some of your picks back that you gave him, so that you gave up to get him. So it might even also help your future a little bit. So you get some picks back You get him back, he knows the system already, kind of plug and play, and you guys can maybe hit the ball rolling a little faster. Where you bring in Trey, he's probably the better talent and scorer at this point, but it's going to be that learning curve to see how well him and Wembanyama can play together. But I think once they get it together, they'll probably be fine. And I honestly, I think Trey Young is probably the move. I think you're not in no rush with this timeline. It's only Wembanyama's second year he's going into. I mean, obviously Trey wants to win now, but I think if he sees like that potential and being there and being with this championship franchise, I think that he'll buy in. So I think that's kind of your thing. You kind of have someone you know that it's gonna buy in. You know what you're getting, and you have someone else who you may be taking more of a chance on. So, but he's the higher probably talent. So those are kind of like your two options there.
I feel like you can't go wrong with either or. Because even Trey's from Oklahoma. It's not that far away from where he grew up. And then you talk about I feel like he'd be a perfect fit for Wembanyama just because of, like I said, that pick and roll. You're bringing that 3-point presence in. And even though I like the young players that San Antonio had this past year, they're doing some good things. We talk a lot about Wembanyama, but even like having Devin Vassell over there, they just paid him. He's definitely been a big piece for them. They haven't had a true point guard. They tried to do this thing with Jeremy Sohan playing point guard, and it didn't really work out. And everybody else is just another guy, like a nice role player piece for them, but they haven't solidified that point guard position. I think that's Woj just come out and said that he expects there to be a lot of player movement. I wouldn't be shocked if it starts with the Hawks and the Spurs, with them making a deal for one of these two guys. And it goes back to what I had said last year, because once they got Wembanyama, and the rumors have been going on since last year about whether they keep Trey or DeJounte, and it's just moving forward. So where there's smoke, there's fire. The Spurs are out here playing chess, not checkers. And this just once again solidifies how great of an organization they are and where they stand in the history of the NBA.
Right, and the Spurs have the fourth and eighth pick. I think they can dangle it. So I think it's also the Hawks. I think the Hawks, are you going full rebuild? And if you go full rebuild, do you trade Trey Young and try to get the fourth and eighth pick and maybe a couple of future picks uh, in the process? Or do you think you keep Trey Young and try to continue to build around him and trade DeJounte Murray back to San Antonio, or whatever the case is? So it's gonna be interesting to see what the Hawks want to do in the situation too. So uh, they could try to get those two picks from San Antonio. That means you have three lottery picks in this year's draft and kind of try to jumpstart your franchise maybe a little sooner. Or do you take this number one pick and try to build around Trey Young and maybe give up Murray and then go from there?
I feel like Trey, if they, it's kind of like when last year with the Portland Trailblazers, when it was like Dame really wanted to get a solidified star, not draft another guy. And once they went that route, it was like, all right, well, yeah, y'all got to get me out of here. I feel like where Trey's at, with everything he's come out and said now, like I don't think he'd be happy if they drafted a player with the first overall pick. Because at that point, you're going into Carmelo Anthony territory.
If the Hawks draft a player with the
If
number one pick,
I've heard, just this isn't a strong enough draft. Like it, you can get a good player, but it's not. They don't have like these. They don't have any phenoms in this draft. We haven't followed these prospects like that to say that.
right? They're everyone has been saying, and even the experts have been saying that this is probably not the strongest draft. They're saying like you probably get a high caliber role player at best, maybe a third option, second option on the team. So you could it's for them. I having the number one pick is good, but it's just a stepping stone. You have to see kind of where you want to go from here, and that's why it might be worth to get the fourth and eighth pick, or and try to maybe flip one of those for a first round next year. But there's like Rob Dillingham from Kentucky. If you want to maybe take him with the fourth pick, he's a scorer, kind of good passer coming out of Kentucky. So that's someone who can you get him with the big guy that they're saying might go number one. That's like two pieces to kind of jumpstart your franchise. Maybe trade the eighth pick and get a first round pick for next year, which seems to be a better draft, and everyone's going to be in there trying to get the number one pick for Cooper Flag.
Yeah. We'll definitely see what happens there, man. Even like Houston, what is Houston gonna do at three? It's another team that I'm like, y'all don't really need that pick where you guys are at. What's a guy that you're looking at that you might be willing to part with the third overall pick for?
Right. Yeah, they're probably dangling that pick and see what they can get for it. There's some young talent maybe they could grab there, but I think they have enough young talent if that's even like really a thing. But at this point, you want to kind of start winning. And they had a chance to maybe make it in a play-in this year, and then they signed Fred Van Vliet and a couple of veteran guys to try to help jumpstart that a little more. So I think you take this pick and do the same thing, try to get you another veteran in there, especially when you say this is not the greatest draft. So for a team like you, who probably is not even gonna have the time to really develop the guy anyway, you'd probably be better off to trade that for an impact player.
100%. Let's go ahead and jump into these conference semis, man, because boy, were they something. And Kay, we not gonna start off with it, but you made some comments about a certain series that we got to touch on for
I
show.
I stand by those comments, and I'm using the same comments for the next series.
Let's go ahead.
I'm standing on business when it comes to that comment.
Let's go ahead and jump into the your 1 and 4 seed. The Celtics took care of business, got it done in 5 games. You know what, man? I'm actually gonna question if Donovan Mitchell doesn't miss the last 2 games, and if Jared Allen doesn't go out for most of that series, does it end in 5 games? Because I knew Donovan Mitchell would be able to get them 1 game. I was shocked that it was game 2, but then he proceeded to miss every game after that. Do you think if Spider was in there that the Celtics might have had to work a little harder?
Uh, it's kind of I don't know because with the Celtics, they always have that game. They even had it against the Heat this year. They always have that game where they kind of just don't show up. They kind of just come out flat. So I expected the Cavs to get one. So like I think they could have got another one, and I think that's the game where it's like Donovan Mitchell got you that game. I think the game two that they dropped is just the Celtics beating the Celtics. So I do think they probably could have got another game, but it probably wouldn't have went further than six.
I agree. The thing surrounding the Cavs right now, now that they're out, it's kind of like what we just talked about in Atlanta with which guard are you going to get rid of? Because the reports are out there that if they decide to stick with Mitchell, which none of this makes sense to me, if they decide to stick with Mitchell, Garland is going to ask his representation to go to the Cavs and ask for a trade. Uh, yeah, I don't know why Garland would go out and ask for a trade. It wasn't like he was the best. He didn't do that when they needed him. He wasn't that great. I mean, he ended the series with a couple 30-point games, but I don't understand why you would want to part ways with a great player like Donovan Mitchell.
Right, yeah, that was kind of confusing for me. I think we all see and kind of know why Donovan Mitchell may be axing out of there, but for Darius Garland, it was kind of confusing for me because like if he stays, that's kind of your best chance of winning right now. I don't know if he's kind of more worried about his stats or whatever, because obviously he has to sacrifice a little more with Donovan there, and he's kind of like the star player for them. But not unless it's that, and he kind of wants to rack up his stats now. It's kind of confusing at this point because your best chance of winning is with him, and if he leaves, who knows who else is willing to come in there or what else you can get for him. So I think that part was really confusing, but I think we all see why Mitchell might want out. But maybe that is something going on behind the scenes that we don't know, and that's another reason why Mitchell might want out. But he's come out and made some comments recently saying that some of the stuff is cap and he doesn't want to leave. So
This is
I don't see
sure.
why he would want to stay if Garland wants to leave too. If Garland's going to leave, if he leaves, so it's kind of confusing over there.
They said Garland will only ask out if Mitchell stays,
Yeah,
which
that's my point. I don't. If I'm Donovan, it's like, what's my point of staying if my second best player is gonna leave if I stay. So I might as well just get up out of here. So it doesn't
Right.
make sense for me to come back. I mean, you can trade him, but like, what are we getting back for him that's gonna make us better?
Yeah, I think if Mitchell really wants out, Cleveland just do what you got to do. I mean, it's no secret why Donovan would want out of there. You ever been to
I
Cleveland?
I think if that is the case, I think Donovan's basically out of there. I don't see why he would stay with the current roster minus Garland. Not unless they pull off a crazy trade for Garland, but I don't see a trade out there that would make him want to stay. So I think Mitchell's probably out of there if that is the case.
Well, they'll have a market for both. There's a couple teams that playoff teams that need a point guard. I mean, you talk about the Spurs. The Spurs, I could see the Spurs going after Darius Garland if they have to pivot from a Trey Young or DeJounte Murray trade. That wouldn't be bad for them.
But
Mitchell,
I'm saying for the Cavs, if the Cavs are not going to get nothing back, that tells Mitchell like, hey, I should stay here by myself. What are they getting from San Antonio that's going to make Mitchell want to stay?
nothing unless they're gonna flip those picks.
Yeah, so that's what I'm
Like
saying. I feel like
even as I say, even in this market, like the only who's the big fish out there that you're gonna get? I guess KD's name is out there, but that's not
he's not going
solid.
to Cleveland.
Um,
He's not going to Cleveland.
right. Um, then who? I mean, Paul George. But again, we have no idea what the Clippers are gonna do there. And then
Paul
after
George
that,
is
like
not going to Cleveland without LeBron. So Paul George is not going to Cleveland. That's what I'm saying. Like no one's going there. So if Garland's out of there, like they would have to pull off a trade for someone who like will accept it, kind of like don't really have a choice. But anyone
pretty
with an
much what happened to
option,
Donovan Mitchell.
right? Anyone with the option is not going there. So like, if Garland wants out, that team is worse. Mitchell might as well just leave. He has the option to leave before Garland. So
Basically, Darius Garland might have ruined the trajectory of the Cleveland Cavaliers with his alleged comments.
I guess he wants the numbers. So shout out to him. He's still young. He can win later, I guess.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. If you're Mitchell, you got options. I want, the Cleveland doesn't have to honor his request with, and I'd assume that they wouldn't. But I mean, Brooklyn's been named out there. The Miami Heat, who are clearly not desperately need to go star hunting, and sounds like they will. They're out there. The New York Knicks, who we're gonna get into, are also back. Remember, that's exactly where Mitchell thought he was going to go before he got traded to Cleveland. And, we've had some comments about the fit there now that they've got Brunson and everything, but they're also back in the fold. I mean, I think the Sixers, I heard the Sixers name floated out there. If you're Donovan Mitchell, where would you want to be? I mean, selfishly, you know what I'm going to say. You need to go over there and go play with Bam and Jimmy in Miami. And y'all can have Tyler Hero and, a couple other pieces and keep it moving. But I don't see a bad option for Mitchell anywhere, honestly.
For
Like out of all the places he's been floated around to possibly go to if he is traded, every team that's been linked to him is an appealing situation.
right, I think number one is New York. Kind of going back to like you said when he really wanted to leave. New York was his number one
For
option.
Brooklyn
Be it
for the Knicks.
the Knicks. I don't see why Brooklyn would be option right now. They're they should be in rebuild. But the Knicks are obviously had one win away from a conference final. They can use him on the wing. They might have some pieces they could trade for him. So I think, and he's from the area. He wanted to go to the Knicks. So I think the Knicks are number one, and I think the Heat are probably 1A as a solid backup option. I think the Heat might be one if he wasn't like from the New York area. So I think Miami, like you said, gone down there and played with Bam and Jimmy. It was in the finals a couple of years. So I obviously people love Miami. So I think those are the top two options for him probably.
Yeah, I know like when we had talked previously about Mitchell going to New York, and this was post Cleveland trade. This was after Brunson made himself more of a known commodity than he already was and kind of ascended into that star player trajectory. myself and some other people are saying, well, we don't know if, Mitchell would fit now because of, the ball dominance. And I've kind of changed my tune, especially after this Knicks season and watching Brunson really work as a point guard. I've changed my tune on that a little bit. I feel like Brunson is an unselfish player. He's willing to kind of take a step back if need be. He's shown just how good of a passer he really is. And I mean, yeah, I feel like if you're the Knicks, you kind of dropped the ball on that a little bit when you had the trade in front of you last time, and now you have a possible opportunity to right the wrong. And if he ends up there, listen, if there's I always knew how great Donovan Mitchell was. If there's one thing that Donovan Mitchell has shown me, Donovan Mitchell's a superstar. Donovan, his demeanor when he goes out and he plays games and the shots he puts up, this is a Hall of Fame player that you're getting. And if you're any team, you should be willing to give up whatever you got to give up to get him. I mean, if you're the Knicks, the first thing I'm doing is I'm including Julius Randle in a package. No disrespect to Julius Randle, because I feel like the Knicks did miss him in this postseason, but you got to do what you got to do.
Right. I think Brunson will be fine. I think he played well with Luca. Obviously, he has a bigger role and he's a bigger player now than what he was back then. But they made a conference finals together, and he played really well during that conference final. So I think he can play off other people, and I think going through the run that he just had, I think he probably wants someone else who can take some ball pressure off of him and take some scoring off of him. So I think he would welcome that. You look at the Knicks this year, what did they need? They needed another scorer. I think Donovan Mitchell can come in and provide that. And I think something he would really welcome because they got the defense, they got everything, but it was kind of too much of an offensive load on him. And obviously, there's Randall. He was out. Whether you have to trade Randall or try to keep Randall in the situation, but uh, I think, like you said, Mitchell is a star, and I think Brunson will welcome it because it's only going to help him take some pressure off him. He's getting pressed full court at dang near every series that they played in this year, and every game in the playoffs he's getting pressed full court, and then he's still trying to create some of the offense in the half court. So, I mean, to be able to get past half court and give it to someone else and take a break a couple plays, I think he'll welcome that.
For sure. Let's go ahead and jump into the Dallas Mavericks Oklahoma City Thunder series. Um, the Thunder had an amazing year this year, man. They definitely were not only ahead of schedule, but the season that they put together was reminded all of us of, those baby Thunder players from back in the day with Russ and Harden and KD and Reggie and all those guys that went on that finals run. And they're going to be great. They are going to be a scary team in the future. They definitely have some moves that they have to make this postseason. Might have to get rid of a couple guys to solidify their position. They need a center, big time, a legit center. Um, and then move on from there, see what they can do. But I picked the Mavericks to win this series in six, really because of youth. I felt like they, as a team, the only with as far as the young guys go, Shea is the only one that's had postseason experience, and that was back when he was playing with Chris Paul in OKC. So, the rest of these guys that haven't been to the dance before, you've never seen a team that comes in with no experience, and this is just in life, no experience, and then just goes out and makes a run like that. Even those OKC teams of yesteryear, they had to go through some adversity before they finally got to the finals. So that's pretty much what I saw here, and I kind of saw their youth a little bit in this series, specifically in that game six. Fouling PJ Washington like that in crunch time, can't do that. You just can't do it. And I feel like that was the make or break for them in this series. And that's to me, it's the big reason why Dallas was able to get past them.
Yeah, I actually I think they've actually impressed me. Honestly, I didn't expect them to sweep in the first round. Obviously, they lost this series, but I think where they struggled was rebounding, and obviously people have been talking about it all year. They need to get maybe someone a little stronger in there to help on the boards. Obviously, you're playing basically four guards, and you're playing Chet at the center, and obviously he can't be everywhere. He's trying to help spread the court out, and then he's trying to help in the paint too. So I think uh, the Mavericks are playing great defense. They've been doing good since the trade. Josh Giddey didn't play well for them at all. So, but I think that the Thunder rebounding and shooting kind of hurt them. They were the best 3-point shooting team, or one of the top three this year. And in the series, they just couldn't hit a shot into that last game. And then when you can't hit shots like that, it's kind of hard to win. I think whether the moment was too big for them or whatever the case is, I think that's probably the case. And that game six is kind of like we have nothing to lose. Let's just kind of go out there and play. Uh, Dallas was home. I expected them to make a run. So obviously you can't foul in that situation, but you kind of got to live and die in Shea's hands. He kind of got you there. That game four down the stretch, the shot making he was able to do. So uh, you live and you learn. I think they impressed me a little bit, even going up against the Mavs. I think they showed a lot of fight, even not even like hitting shots. So I kind of didn't expect them to win it this year, but I actually didn't expect them to do as well as they did too. So shout out to them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on that. Excuse me. I just think at the end of the day, the big thing was that they lacked size. Lively really killed them there. You know, you talked about Clint Capella earlier with the Hawks. I think that that's a move you might want to make. At least a move. I'm not really privy on all the big men that are going to be available come
If
this off, but we know that there's going to be a bunch of movement there.
if I'm the Thunder, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling the Houston Rockets and saying, "What do you want to give me Steven Adams back?"
Hmm, not mad at that.
That's my play for them.
It could be a really good move. It could definitely be a huge, huge move for them. Who's gonna take Josh Giddey though? Because Josh Giddey's out of there. Josh Giddey's out of. Not only did you not perform when we needed you to, but you did some atrocious things off the court that you're lucky you got away with. And it's in the best interest of the organization and team that he's just out of there.
They're gonna have to attach some of those picks or one of those picks with him, but it's gonna be a young team that's not winning right now. If the Hawks go into rebuild mode, maybe the Hawks, the Wizards, maybe. Like it's gonna be a team like that, a team that's like can try to take him and develop him a little more, give him some playing time, or kind of not a team trying to win at the moment, and is trying to get some draft capital.
All right, I like it, man. Let's go ahead and jump into New York, New York. Classic series with the Indiana Pacers. Rivalries reborn. I told you guys when we had talked about it last show, I'm a storylines guy. We go back to the days of Reggie Miller and Patrick Ewing and John Starks. Even you could talk about the Knicks tape era back when they had, the Pacers had Roy Hibbert and Paul George and George Hill going up against Carmelo Anthony and the rest of those Knicks tape guys and Maury Stoudemire. And then today we had Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, and the rest of the Nova guys going up against them. The downfall for the Knicks in this series was injuries because we both picked the Knicks in six. We gave Indiana their respect, saying that it was going to go six. And injuries really just killed the Knicks big time in this series. I feel like once was a huge difference maker for them in the regular season when they made the trade. They were the best for about a month and a half in the regular season. They were the best team in the NBA when they had all of their guys on the court together, including him. He just completely transformed that team. You miss him for a little while. He comes back. You don't have Julius Randle, but it's no harm, no foul because you got OG Anunoby, who's your 3 and D player over there. Once he was gone, it was kind of like a sinking ship from there. And then Josh Hart gets hurt with the whole rib injury. Game seven, OG and Josh try to make their comeback and play. They're shells of themselves, especially OG. It's not easy coming back from a hamstring at all. You don't just, if it was the regular season, he wouldn't have played at all. But he tried and, respect, but he just wasn't able to do it. And then Jalen Brunson broke his hand in game seven. So it was all she wrote there. I mean, respect to the Pacers. You got to give them credit. They toughed it out. They were one of the best offensive net rated teams in the league this year. They're gonna have their hands full, obviously, but to me, this series really came down to injuries. And if the Knicks didn't have to deal with those injuries right now, we would be congratulating them and talking about how they're in their first Eastern Conference Finals in 24 years.
Yeah, injuries obviously caught up to him, like you said. There was guys out there playing 48 minutes a night, which is kind of maybe not sustainable in the long run. But yeah, shout out to the Knicks, man. Great season. Obviously, the injuries just kind of caught up with them. I think where what really kills them is that game three loss. They basically had the game. Well, the game was going back and forth. Nemhard hits a three from basically half court. You win that game, you think the series is probably over in five, and then we're in a different situation. So, uh, yeah, man, it takes some luck to win sometimes, and they were just a little unlucky in that case. But uh, still a terrible ending, but still a wonderful season. And let's see what they end up doing this offseason.
Should I like go a little a la Stephen A. Smith on the Knicks real quick, or we should just chill out on the Knicks and give them their flowers?
Uh, I mean, that's up to you. They got to hear it eventually.
Well, look, man, I don't hate the Knicks team, and I have many friends and family that are Knicks fans, and I want them to win, man. I'm so sick and tired of seeing you guys upset all the time. It's always something. You know who the Knicks remind me of so much? Another sports franchise that has a very similar fan base.
The Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys. What can go wrong will go wrong. The accident waiting to happen. Stephen A. Smith was on every show every day. Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then you didn't. You had Spike Lee in a chokehold in pregame for Game Seven. Y'all was talking all this mess, and what can go wrong will go wrong. I just want look. I'm very objective about the team. This team is going places. The Knicks are back. Can we say that the Knicks are back? Can we finally say it?
I don't know. Last time I said it, they hit a downward spiral. So I'm gonna keep my comments to myself.
All right, all right. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it though. I think the Knicks are back. I really do think the Knicks are back. But let's take a chill pill on how we act, people. I know y'all, a lot of y'all are Giants fans anyway. Yeah, don't start acting like Cowboys fans out here. Let this thing play out. Don't start preaching and all this stuff. It's funny, but let's take a chill pill. Let's relax. This is the NBA's version of the accident waiting to happen until y'all can get it right. So let's all just chill and watch this amazing product that y'all are finally putting out there.
Yeah, I think this playoff run gave him a little confidence. Making it to the second round, going 70, think you win without injury. So they're not gonna calm down. They're only gonna get louder.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But a guy can dream. A guy can hope.
Hmm.
We'll see what happens. I do think the Knicks are going to make a move this offseason. I don't even think it. I expect it. We talked about Donovan Mitchell. Paul George is another guy who could fit in perfectly over the. I mean, Paul George could fit in perfectly anywhere, but Paul George is another guy that you're gonna watch out. But I fully expect the Knicks to make a, dare I say, franchise changing move. By the time we get to training camp in the fall, I believe that there will be a new big name player in New York with the Knicks, and Julius Randle will be in another city.
Uh, yeah, I mean, even when the Knicks were bad, there was always rumblings about people wanting to go there. I think it's always a destination spot, and now that they're doing good, uh, I think there will be some stars lining up. It just depends on how what the moves that the Knicks make. The only problem is I don't know how many people want to play for Tibbs and play 48 minutes a night. But I guess you worry about that when you get there.
Like, the poll was out there, but he was the least was it the coach players least likely wanted to play for. And I mean, you got to
Right.
have a point. Like people tried to defend the whole 48 minutes a game thing, and his players went to bat for him. But Josh Hart made his comments. But when you look at how the series ended, how could you not go back to how long they were playing? OG Anunoby pulled his hamstring. There's only one reason why you pull a muscle. So I don't know. It's Tibb. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Tibbs seems like he's stuck in his ways. We've seen it. We
Yeah.
saw it in Chicago, we saw it in Minnesota, and we're seeing it again in New York. So
That's
you
actually like a terrible thing. I don't know what got him into that. Playing your players that much is kind of ridiculous. You go back to the Rose injury. There, that game was won. He's still
yeah,
in the game. He ends up tearing his ACL because you're playing 48 minutes and the game was over. So I don't know what got him into that, but like, there's no point of paying nobody on the bench if you're not gonna play anybody. It doesn't make any sense.
he doesn't. I don't understand how you can't trust your bench that much. And granted,
The-
I'll go to bat for him a little bit because I think Hart was a starter, but DiVincenzo was coming off the bench. He had a couple guys that ended up being starters late in the season and into the postseason that were originally supposed to be bench players. But still, you can't like he didn't even start giving Alec Burks minute until Brunson had the foot injury. You
right,
can't
but
this you can't trust your bench that much.
the thing is, it's I don't think it has anything to do with the bench. I just think he doesn't want to play that many players. Uh, they have bench players. Like, there's no reason why Alex Burke shouldn't have been playing before that. So like, I just think he just doesn't like playing players. Like, I don't think it doesn't. I'm saying like it doesn't matter who's on that bench. He's playing his five or his six or seven, and that's it. Like, that's just like his motto.
I wonder if there's going to be a conversation about that in their exit meetings.
I think the higher ups kind of have to come down and be like, hey, that's kind of not sustainable in a long playoff run. Especially because like I understand like playoff time, you want to maybe put some people's minutes up. You can't play everybody 48 minutes for a whole 92 game season,
No,
82 game plus playoffs.
no. And I mean, people were trying to defend it, man, but when you see how this season ends up playing out, this postseason series on top of it, like specifically, yeah, it's just you got to look back and say, man, these guys shouldn't have been playing that many minutes. So, shout out to the Knicks. The great season. Really rooting for y'all. Not gonna lie, but there's always next year, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We had another game seven. What a Sunday. An amazing Sunday to get treated to two game sevens. And this game seven was a lot more fun to watch than the Knicks Pacers game seven. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. You had the defending champs against this hot commodity team. Ant-Man has been regarded as the next Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. It reminds us so much of him, which he really does. Athleticism is crazy. Can jump out the gym. He's got that killer instinct mentality. Carl Anthony Towns has jumped a level. Rudy Gobert looks good. Like he doesn't get run off the floor anymore. There's just Mike Conley, just a complete team, right? Against the defending champs. Now, I'm not gonna lie, when this series started, I picked the Nuggets in six, and then Minnesota goes and takes the first two games in Denver, and I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. Minnesota might win this thing in 5 games. And then Denver comes back and wins the next two in Minnesota. Shout out to our guy Mike. Mike never wavered. He thought that this was going to be a series all day long, and it really was. It truly was. Ant called a shot that this was going to go to a game seven. It did. And then they went and did the thing. What hurt Denver in this series, and I feel like anybody that knows basketball is going to say this, nobody got lucky. And you know what? The Denver guys didn't falter either. They didn't blow the series of the game. You missed You missed Bruce Brown and who else was over there that they didn't bring back? It was Bruce Brown
Jeff Green.
and Jeff Green. You miss Bruce Brown and Jeff Green tremendously. And the organization came out and said early in the year that they weren't prioritizing bringing in bench players like that. And that truly is what ended up killing them in this series. They played Minnesota last year and they beat them in 5 games. Bruce Brown, when he was interviewed after the championship, said their toughest matchup in the postseason was the Minnesota Timberwolves. You couldn't just plug and play away with guys like that. The fact that you lost those two guys contributed big time to this loss, and Minnesota completely capitalized on it.
Yeah, I think they were expecting some of those young guys to step up a little more. I think Watson and then Brown, the other Brown. I think they expected those guys to kind of step up some more and kind of take on a bigger role, and that kind of just didn't happen. So it kind of hurt their bench a little bit. Michael Porter Jr. didn't have a great series either. I think just the way that obviously Minnesota's had the number one defense in the league all year, but I think the way they played it, they didn't try to overreacted too much that Jokic was doing. I think some teams kind of obviously they have the personnel to do it too. Cat played really good defense on him, kind of straight up, so you don't have to send too many doubles and stuff. So then you got Rudy Gobert just on that back line trying to mess up that lob and stuff. So they forced him to do some other things, but uh, it just wasn't as many open looks and stuff for him. So he didn't play as well. Obviously, excuse me, Murray didn't play good for the first 2 games, so Ant kind of got on him in that game 7 and kind of made it real tough for him. So they're putting long, lanky defenders on him, making it tough for him. So the bench is obviously important, but they kind of didn't have the money to bring Bruce Brown back. You would have to been asking him to take a pay cut, and I don't know kind of what his situations or thoughts of that were. Jeff Green was definitely an option for them to bring back, but I think it's more like they kind of relied on those young players, and they obviously wasn't kind of ready for the moment. And then after that, you're just relying on your starters a little too much. Uh, yeah.
I feel like even if you couldn't bring him back because of pay, you should have prioritized bringing at least one guy in that was going to give you close to the production that those two brought in.
Right, but I think they felt like they had that on their bench already. Uh, the other Watson ended up not playing at all. They stopped playing him, but I think Brown, he played good for them this series. He brought energy, but obviously he's not the same player. He's still young.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what Minnesota does moving forward. Obviously, they don't need to make the big splash moves. They've already got their core in play. I mean, it's interesting that you brought up Michael Porter Jr. because I've seen some people mention how, he didn't show up or things like that. When have we ever really considered Michael Porter Jr. a star player? I guess you could consider him a part of like their big three, but Michael Porter Jr. fell in the draft to them because of a back injury, which flared up a couple of times in his career already. And he's a great shooter. That's what he's there for. But he's a streaky shooter. He's never been, night in, night out that you get in Steph Curry or prime Klay Thompson, right? So it was never a shock to me that he had games where he just didn't show up because he's more, no disrespect, he's more J.R. Smith than he is a splash brother.
Yeah, I just think he played really well for them on that run last year. He was hitting shots, and I mean, if you look at his numbers in the first round series against the Lakers, he was playing really well, hitting shots. I think so. That's why people kind of expected him to why they don't think wow they don't think he's a star. I think you combine him and Aaron Gordon together and you kind of get like that second star with those two, but he just wasn't hitting shots. Obviously he's streaky, but I think on the run last year he played really well and he played really well last series against the Lakers and that kind of production shot making just wasn't there this series.
For sure. They'll be back. They'll be back though. That's a team that you're gonna have to watch out for years to come. And if I'm the GM, I'm prioritizing solidifying that bench. I might even get rid of one or two of those young players in order to do it.
Yeah, I think they've learned from this mistake, and that's going to be all the talk all this summer. And yeah, I mean they might have to free up some money too, so we'll see what happens.
For sure. Let's go ahead and get into these previews, man. We got game one of the Eastern Conference Finals on ESPN at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. And then game one of the Western Conference Finals on TNT at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. Speaking of TNT, man, it's the end of an era. It's the end of an era, bro.
I mean we don't know that for sure yet, but that's what's all the rumors. So let's see how it plays out, and then maybe I'll have some sad words at the end of it. But there's still a fighting chance, so let's see what happens.
If it is the end, I hope NBC is ready to put up a show that's going to be hopefully just as good as
Is
what they've given us the last 20 years.
uh, I think it'll be super tough. The expectation would just be too high. Uh, so it'll be tough for them. So they said they would try to bring those guys over, but Ernie doesn't want to leave
Ernie's not
TNT.
leaving.
So it'll be super tough.
Yeah. We'll see. But let's go ahead and get into these, man. Let's start off with the Celtics Pacers because this is the series where you feel like there is a clear-cut winner. Um, do you right in this series? Let me go back. Let me go back to this because you had the comment already. In this series, you have the two highest powered offenses in the NBA going against each other. I feel like in the Knicks series, the Pacers did show us that they can play some defense. Are they a defensive team? No. But can they play defense? Yes. They've got one of the best floor generals, if not the best floor general in the game right now in Tyrese Halliburton. And you've got a bunch of other really good pieces. Pascal Siakam over there, Obi Toppin, you name it. They've got a solid team together. And the Celtics should win this series. I'm going to say that the Celtics do win this series because they have two Hall of Fame caliber players leading the way, a third guy in Derek White, and then everybody else over there that kind of fits as a key cog. Coaching might play a part in this series. I still have questions about the Celtics coach, whereas I know what I'm getting in as a coach in Indiana. I'm gonna pick the Celtics to win this series in 6 games because I feel like Indiana showed me something. I I gotta go back to the fact that you have the two highest powered offenses going against each other, and to me, that means something. But the Celtics will close it out in 6 because flat out they're the better team.
Uh, I'm gonna bring back my comments from last time. I won't be watching the series. There's nothing like the Knicks series. It's like I wasn't gonna watch it, but like if I'm around, I'm gonna look at it because the Knicks, it's New York, hometown, whatever, whatever. I don't care about the Celtics at all. Like I'm not probably watching the second of this series. Uh, The Celtics are the Celtics. I'm gonna pick the Celtics in 6. It really should be 5. But the Celtics are always gonna give up that one game where they just don't show up like they did in both game twos in their in their first second round series. And I think Indiana's good enough to get you one. They're gonna be in Indiana, crowd probably going crazy. They're running up and down. That'll get you one. So I say Boston in 6. But Boston's gonna do the thing where like they come out, they look hot, and then they just look like they don't want to play that day, and then they come out and play, and then Indiana's gonna run up and down and maybe play a little defense, but they're not gonna play defense all the time. But I got Boston in 6. But tomorrow, I already found me a nice little movie to watch. I've been watching basketball every night. It's finally, now it's every other night for me. Finally get to catch up on some stuff I've been waiting to catch up on.
I don't know. We're gonna drop a poll. Is Kayson being disrespectful? Give us your answers.
Like, y'all can watch it if y'all want to. It like the next series, it turn. It's like semi entertaining, but like uh I wasn't like dying to watch it. Like I said, and the only thing there was like it's the Knicks. So like that's home. But like boy, I do not want to watch the Celtics. The Celtics bother me because they just like they play around too much. So they I have no interest in really watching them either. And you already know how I feel about Indiana. So the Celtics, I wait until the finals to watch them. And then, but Boston's really just the better team here. So it's kind of like, what's the point?
I feel you. Question for you. I was having a conversation with some of my guys in the group chat, and we're not gonna make our total picks because we're not there yet. But I did say that I felt like this could be the year for the Celtics. Like it just could, things are kind of going their way right now as far as matchups and everything go. They're all in their primes. It feels like it's time. And I was met with the Celtics are boring. They're not really a team. Like you don't look at those guys and see like a team of guys like who fit together and things like that. And I've been on this train for years when it comes to breaking up the Celtics. Because I'm like, they've had too much success already to try and break them up. I don't see a reason to, unless it starts falling apart, which it clearly hasn't. Why would you break them up? Do you agree with the sentiment that the Celtics just aren't a team? And can they win with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown together?
I think they're a team. Kind of like what I was just saying. The Celtics, it's like mental for them. And in their last three postseason runs, they're home. They're like 15 and 15 at home. They just have this thing where like they just don't show up at home. They make things a lot more difficult than they have to be. Like if you look at all their series, even like last year, I think did they play Philly? No. Yeah, I think they did play
They
Philly and
beat
they almost
Philly. They did
lost.
beat
They
Philly in
almost
the
lost.
postseason.
They almost lost. The game six when Jason Tatum like just started hitting shots down the stretch. Like they just they're the Celtics. I just think mentally they just I don't know if like I don't know what be happening. It seems like a lot of time it's at home. So like they just have these mental laps. Like you look at this year's playoffs, they lost both game twos that they should have won, and it's just like I guess sometimes people say like if they're not hitting threes, they rely on a three too much, then whatever. But it's been a couple years of this, and it's just like mentally they just have these lapses that cost you in the playoffs. Like you can't keep giving up home games in the playoffs. You're you're not gonna win. So I think that's the Celtics problem. I think as far as blowing it up, I think if they don't make it to the finals, they lose to Indiana, you have to blow it up. And then I think if they lose in the finals, you have to take a hard look at blowing it up because part of their problem too has been like the Miami Heat in the Western Conference. So like if you lose, you're gonna lose to either Luca or Ant Man, and they're younger than Tatum. So I don't want to hear the excuse about they're young, they got time, this and that. Those guys are gonna win one before them and they're going to be a problem for them going forward. So like eventually they need to like, and then Jason, they're both about to be getting paid $300 million. So they're taking up a lot of your cap. So I think you have to, if you don't, I wouldn't even be too mad at them losing in the finals to whoever they lose to coming out the West. But if they don't make it to the finals, you have to blow it up. They lose in the finals, I think you have to take a hard look at it.
I disagree on the precedent of the whole reason why they lost to the Miami Heat last year. It was coaching. They
No,
definitely
I said it. Oh, oh, finish your sentence. Finish.
I think coaching Matt, like when you bring up them playing around and losing games that they shouldn't lose, Missoula's a huge part of that. He's only in his second year as a head coach ever, and the way he got the head coaching job was crazy. So that is something that still rears its head a little bit in these series where they lose games, where it's like, man, you playing with your food. You should have closed this out a while ago. And to me, I don't think you break it up if they're not going to lose to the Pacers. I would be shocked if they lost to the Pacers. But if they don't win it all, I think that the conversation should be who is the voice that we can get in here to get these guys right? Because when you make comments like that, and I agree with you, when you make comments like that though, that all has to go down with coaching.
I mean, yeah, you could. That's what I said. If they lose in the finals, I think you take a hard look at it. But if you want to switch the coach, then that's fine. You would think they had the coach already with Udoka over there, but
He was wilding. He did, but he was
uh,
bugging.
uh, yeah, I guess if you don't want to blow it up, it's like you get another coach in there. But now you have three coaches, and neither one of them was able to get it done. So eventually, you do have to look at the players and say, "Hey, it's time for you to get it done." And also, we're paying $600 million for two players, which is going to limit us. I think they have everything they need right now. If anything, you run it back one more time with another coach. What if you don't win at that time? I think it's definitely time to blow it up because like they've done every variation of this roster that they possibly can at this point. I don't see where else they go with this roster.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I mean, if Missoula never went, and I'm a Heat fan saying this. If Missoula never went, I think that the Celtics beat the Heat last year. And
That's debatable. Even
they
when
lost
Ime,
that series big time on code. Don't get me wrong, they were soft in the head. The Heat did punk them around, but Spoelstra was running circles around Missoula in the
but
conference finals last year.
even when they had Ime Udoka, they lost. They beat the Heat in seven, and if Jimmy Butler hits that pull up three at the end of the game, the Heat win that series, and then it's a whole different conversation here. So I
Yes, you're
wouldn't
always gonna
necessarily
get that.
say they win that series if they had Udoka. I think that would be the second year of Spoelstra going against Udoka, and I think he probably coaches circles around him too.
You think that they would have punked the Celtics like they did last year if
I
Udoka
mean,
was the head coach?
I still think the Heat could have won. I still think the Heat would have won, actually.
All right, all right. I don't know.
If Jimmy Butler hits that shot in Game Seven, they win 2 years. They win that first year, and then it's a different
the-
conversation
but
about
these are two
that
these are
finals
two
run.
rivalry these are two rivalry teams. Like you expect it to be a fight when
Right.
they
So
go out and they play each other.
right. So they won that year, and then the Heat won the year after that. So I think the Heat still would have won last year.
I don't know. I can't
Would
get
it
over.
would it the series have looked differently? Yes. Would the Heat still have won? Yes.
That's not debatable. You're already
I mean,
saying it
everything's
would have looked
debatable.
differently. They wouldn't have got blown out by 50 on their home court. That was not happening if Udoka was the head coach over there. No way.
Uh, I mean, everything's debatable. So, I mean, we would never know. But I mean, even with Udoka, like they had those games where like they wasn't really showing up. Like, I mean, you can obviously Steph Curry and them, but that game four, they kind of had that in the bag. They kind of just had one of those mental lapses again, and Steph Curry went Steph Curry, but whatever.
But that's year
But
one
even in the
of
Buck series,
Udoka.
they lost. That Buck series went seven because they lost like game five or something, and then had to go to Milwaukee in game six and show up and
Brad
play.
Stevens wasn't the coach over there though for that series.
No, that was the finals run.
All right. I don't. I just think because we saw what this team was with Brad Stevens. Udoka comes in and they go to the finals. That said a lot to me. And then the next year, what happened or that summer, what happened. But these guys are lacking a voice that I feel like they respect. And if they don't win it all this year, I feel like before you have the conversation about who's staying and who's leaving, you have the coaching conversation. And then if it doesn't work out after you change the coach again, and listen, if they get rid of Udoka, if they get rid of Missoula, you need to get the guy. Like the Celtics might even have to poach somebody's coach. You should get the best guy possible that you can get out there. I mean, hey, we don't even know what's happening with the Warriors in the next couple of years. Does Steve Kerr want to stick around for that? Is Steve Kerr the next guy that might leave? Do you take a look at Steve Kerr? Or do you try and get somebody else, or do you give somebody a shot that's next up?
When that Warriors franchise goes down, I think Steve Kerr's retiring.
Hmm.
He's not. I don't think he's coaching after that. I think he's gone with the dynasty.
He's not
But
pulling a fit.
no, I don't think so. It would have to be a real enticing situation, but I don't think so. Uh, that would be four different head coaches at this point. Eventually, you have to look at the players.
But I don't if they change the coach again and it doesn't work out, then I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. It seems like you guys are kind of capped out at this point. But I'm not going to be so quick to say somebody's got to go. We got to switch up this roster a little bit when I still have questions about the head coach.
I mean, they shouldn't have questions about the head coach. They hired him, but we'll see how it goes. Like I said, if they lose in the finals, I'm taking a hard look at it. Anything before that, I'm definitely doing it.
All right, man. We will see. We will definitely see. I think we looks like we both have the Indiana Pacers. We both have the Boston Celtics taking this thing in six, representing the Eastern Conference, going to their second finals in the last 3 years. Speaking of making two runs in the last 3 years, the Dallas Mavericks we spoke of early beating the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have reached their second conference finals in 3 years, and they are taking on a Minnesota Timberwolves team that looks lights out on defense. They've got star players up and down the board. Coaching looks great. And this is the series that I think Kayson will tell us all that he is not missing. And if you're a true fan, you shouldn't miss this series either because, boy, I think the series is going to be fun. I think the series could go 7 games. You have star power across the board. You got Luka Doncic, you've got Kyrie Irving, you've got Anthony Edwards, you've got Karl Anthony Towns. To a lesser degree, you have Rudy Gobert. The Timberwolves, I've said this before and I'll say it again. The Timberwolves play a brand of defense that when you watch them play defense, it's like this is like watching the Golden State Warriors on offense. The job that they did against the Denver Nuggets was amazing. It's been insane. And defense wins championships. It always has, it always will. Them playing that level of defense that they play, it's hard for me to bet against them. I feel, here's the difference between them and OKC. People look at Minnesota because of Ant and think that they're a young team, and the reality is the only young player over there is Ant. Karl Anthony Towns has been in the league for years. Rudy Gobert has won. I have to what I have to go on more than one hand to count his defensive player of the year. Mike Conley is their floor general. He's been around for a long time. They're not a young team. I look at kind of matchups. Ant has already said that he wants Kyrie Irving. That's going to be something to watch because Kai is a magician. Kai's going to do what he does. Ant's going to do what he does. And it's going to be like, who's going to be better on that given night? Luka's going to be amazing. I think that the difference in this is going to be defense, though. Luka's still hobbled. He's been putting up great numbers, but we know that he's not healthy. But when I look at it, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves off the strength of that defense that they're playing. And
Uh,
I'm gonna do it in 6 or 7 games. I'm still kind of thinking that through, but I might go 7.
right, right. Yeah, this is gonna be a great series. I think it's gonna be a back and forth series, like you said. It's gonna be interesting. I think this one's gonna come down to coaching and chess match and kind of how they line things up. Like you said, Ant said he has Kyrie already, so you figure McDaniels is on Luca, probably picking him up full court, making it a little difficult for him. So PJ Washington's been playing well, hitting that corner three. So I mean, you have Gobert around the rim, but Karl Anthony Towns will probably be on him, so you don't want Karl Anthony Towns helping too much. I'm gonna go. I think this is gonna be a great series. I'm gonna go the Mavs. I think the Mavs get it in six. I think they take one, kind of what they've been doing. I think they take one of these first two games. They kind of play out like their other couple series. I think they'll take those first two games. I think Ant trying to guard Kyrie. Kyrie's been picking his spots here. He usually tries to go off in the second half, but I think the Mavs are going to still win these first games and get in six.
All right, I'm not mad at it, man. It came down to defense for me, but it's not like this is an easy series to pick. These guys are gonna fight it out. I'll tell you what though, if the Mavs get it, Ky, Ky- Kyrie is great, and I don't know why people looked at his antics in Brooklyn, and for some reason they forgot how great Kyrie Irving is. The first stop where we looked at Kyrie Irving being this guy that people didn't want was Boston. Kyrie Irving goes up against Boston. Kyrie Irving's winning Finals MVP. Book it.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting matchup. See those guys go at it, but I mean, we kind of know who's coming out the East, so it's really the West. I think, yeah, that's gonna be my CTV if he ends up going up against Celtics.
We'll definitely see, man. It's gonna be two exciting series. Obviously, one a little more exciting than the other, but it's definitely gonna be one to watch. Make sure you guys are tuned in because we certainly will be. Kay, you got anything for the people before we get out of here?
Nope, that's it, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in.
Definitely appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will be back next time to recap all the action. See y'all next time. Peace.